Bonjour tout le monde et bienvenue à cette deuxième session de la 13e édition du Forum international. Hi everyone, welcome to the second virtual session of the 13th International Forum. I'm just going to let people trickle in from the waiting room and we'll get started in about 30 seconds. Donc, je vais simplement laisser entrer les gens qui sont dans la salle d'attente et puis on va débuter dans environ une trentaine de secondes. All right, I think we can get started. So hi everyone, my name is Sophie. I'll be your MC for today's session. I am the Public Engagement Manager at WUSC. So if you have any WUSC-related questions, feel free to send them our way. We'll be happy to answer. But most importantly, I am here today to just introduce the wonderful panel that will speak to youth voices in climate, agriculture, and entrepreneurship. So just before I get into the session itself, just a few logistical information that I want to share with everybody. So this session will be bilingual with some panelists speaking in English, some panelists speaking in French. So we do have live interpretation for those of you who require it. So you can activate it by clicking on the globe icon located at the bottom or the top of your screen directly in Zoom and select the language in which you would like to hear the webinar. Donc, bonjour à tous et à toutes. Bienvenue à la session sur la voix des jeunes dans le climat, l'agriculture et l'entrepreneuriat. Donc, la session va se dérouler, on a certains panélistes qui parlent français, certains panélistes qui parlent anglais. Donc, si vous avez besoin d'activer la traduction ou l'interprétation simultanée, vous pouvez le faire en cliquant directement sur l'icône en forme de globe qui est située soit en bas ou en haut de votre écran pour sélectionner la langue dans laquelle vous aimeriez entendre l'interprétation. Before I introduce our moderator, I just want to use this opportunity to thank our sponsors. Without them, we would not be here today. We wouldn't be able to host this wonderful event in a hybrid version, having 2 sessions online today and in-person sessions for those of you joining us in Ottawa tomorrow and Saturday. So we are really, really happy and thankful to Algonquin College, Uniglobe CBO Travel, TD, University of Saskatchewan, Halton University, Brandon University, and the University of Guelph. And again, before I get started, I also want to acknowledge that I am personally joining you from the unceded, unsurrendered territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people, also known as Ottawa. I do invite you to use the chat to share where you're from. We have people joining us from all around the world. So please use the chat to interact between yourself. And if you have any questions for our panelists, I invite you to use the Q&A section, which is located again at the bottom or at the top of your Zoom screen, depending on the version that you are using, and to type in your question directly in the Q&A. Feel free to ask your question in either French or English, and we will relay the questions to the panelists at the reserved section at the end of this webinar so that they can answer any questions you may have. Donc, pour ceux et celles qui voudraient utiliser le chat pour se présenter, pour interagir avec les autres participants, le chat est disponible. Par contre, si vous avez des questions pour les panélistes, je vous invite à les poser directement dans la section Q&A qui est située sur votre barre Zoom, soit au bas ou en haut de votre écran, tout dépendant de la version que vous utilisez. Et à la fin du webinaire, on va avoir une section réservée pour que les panélistes puissent répondre à vos questions directement. Donc, sans plus attendre, let me pass the mic to our moderator for today's session. I will invite Shania to join us, please.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shania Scotland, and I am the moderator for the session today. I'm actually a climate smart agriculture officer with WUSC, based in the Caribbean in the small country of Dominica. It's an island between Guadeloupe and Martinique, and we're implementing the Sustainable Agriculture in the Caribbean project, also in Dominica, as well as St. Lucia, Jamaica, Guyana, and Suriname. So students, distinguished panelists, and honored guests, it is with great pleasure and enthusiasm that we gather here today for a profoundly engaging discussion centered around the pivotal theme of youth voice in climate, agriculture, and entrepreneurship. Hosted by the esteemed World University Service of Canada, WUSC, this panel serves as a beacon of hope and inspiration, illuminating the critical role that the youth play in shaping the future. I am delighted to announce our esteemed panelists, each a trailblazer in their own right, coming from diverse corners of the globe. We have the privilege of hosting Jean-Louis Amani, a visionary leader from AGLUS in Côte d'Ivoire, whose tireless efforts and innovative solutions have been instrumental in driving positive change in the agricultural landscape. Joining us as well is Vince Morgan, a passionate young farmer hailing from the vibrant island of Dominica within the Caribbean region, whose dedication to sustainable practices and agricultural innovation sets a shining example for aspiring agriculturalists worldwide. Last, but certainly not least, we are honored to also welcome Audrey S. Darko, the dynamic force behind Sabon Saki in Ghana, whose entrepreneurial commitment to community development exemplifies the power of youth-driven initiatives. Today's dialogue promises to be nothing short of enlightening as we delve deep into the pressing issues and untapped opportunities that lie at the intersection of climate change, agriculture, and entrepreneurship. In a world grappling with the far-reaching impacts of a changing climate, the voices and actions of our youth stand as a beacon of hope, offering innovative solutions and fresh perspectives to address the challenges of our time. So together, we will explore the multifaceted landscape of agricultural sustainability, the power of entrepreneurial endeavors, and the urgent need for youth empowerment in the face of this environmental crisis. So by fostering a collaborative spirit and amplifying the voices of our young leaders, we aim to pave the way for a more resilient, equitable, and sustainable future for generations to come. I urge each and every one of you to actively participate, engage in thought-provoking discussions, and we can now ignite the flames of inspiration that will guide us to a brighter tomorrow. So thank you and enjoy. Okay. So I would now like to introduce the panelists and now invite them to not necessarily unmute their mic just yet, but to turn on their cameras. So once again, I'd like to invite Vince Morgan, Audrey S. Darko, and Jean-Louis to turn on their cameras. Thank you. So my first question will be directed to Audrey. Would you be able to briefly introduce yourself and share a bit about your background in relation to climate or entrepreneurship in agriculture?
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks, Shania. Hi, I'm Audrey S. Darko, and I'm currently calling from Ghana. I am lead at Sabon Saki, and this is a climate tech organization I founded right out of university. In my final year, I spent the last year of college doing research in agriculture and really trying to find out how one incident that happened in our country, Ghana, spiraled out of control. And this was basically a sugarcane factory that was established, and there were millions of dollars that were invested into setting it up. but it collapsed. It was resuscitated. It collapsed again. And that baffled me. You know, I was in the library of my university reading the newspaper, and I said to myself, this doesn't really make sense to me, because there are lots of farmers, outgrowers, who are excited about growing sugarcane to feed this factory. So why should the reason be inadequate supply of sugarcane? So I took my last year of my capstone to do research, visit farming communities to really understand what the problem was, to try and solve it. And I'd say that led me to be more in tune and in touch with nature and agriculture. And so far I've been running from there. And this is the space, and this is my life's work.
Wow, that's really lovely to hear, Audrey. I'm really happy that you actually took a very proactive approach. It shows initiative, and I'm happy that now your company is something that is a result of going out into the field and meeting with farmers one-on-one to find out what exactly was the issue. So that's really lovely. Thank you for that response. I'd like to now ask Vince, would you be able to now introduce yourself and share a bit about your background in relation to climate and entrepreneurship in the agricultural sector?
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. It's nice to be here today. So I'm 51-year-old Vince Morgan. I'm a hydroponics farmer and electrician from a small island called Dominica, which is located in the Caribbean, not to be mistaken for Dominican Republic. I first started as an electrician, and then I decided to pursue agriculture, as I felt there were more opportunities for me in this sector. Right? I still do electricals. I'm still an electrician part-time, but within the next 3 years, I plan to fully dedicate myself to agriculture. I plan to keep on investing heavily in agriculture to become the most modern and biggest producer in my country. I currently operate a 4,200 square feet hydroponics greenhouse, which is the largest hydroponics farm in my country. And I see myself adding to my square footage very soon. Thank you.
Nice, nice. Thank you. But would you be able to kind of expound on the pivotal moment in your life that really pushed you into agriculture? What was it that said, this is what I need to get into?
Well, to be honest, I can be straightforward money. So like, I had this friend I went to school with, and he had these uncles and farmers doing farming. And like when he told me the experience, like these guys will build their house without mortgage, you know, these guys will buy vehicles, cash money. And so that was really a pivot point for me, to be honest.
Nice. Okay, thank you very much for the truth and that honesty. It's really appreciated. And yes, learning about experiences from other farmers do help to get you to choose like a pathway like this, because you get to see it happen for yourself, and you're like, okay, maybe I should probably do it too. So Audrey, my next question is going to be directed to you. What do you think the current opportunities for you as a young person in agriculture and agribusiness?
There's several opportunities in agriculture, even not just for me as a person, but even for my country and the continent of Africa. And I'll start off. We know how AI is transforming the agriculture sector, down to employing a lot of people. Because, for instance, if you have 3 hectares of land, you need people to kind of help with the harvest or the packaging. That's increasing jobs, right? Currently, we're looking into the soil restoration, land reclamation space. And for myself as the leader of Seldom Sake, we've been able to get into the land reclamation space in the mining sector and into the land degraded sector. So we're able to partner with mining companies that would want to rehabilitate their land, restore it using regenerative agricultural practices, educate the farmers over there. We get paid to do that, which gets us excited, and it's more sustainable for us. But as well, we're able to harness the power of waste streams that come from factories and also from the farmlands, because people would normally see that as useless, but we kind of, make people realize its essence in restoring and preserving the environment, but also as well making more entrepreneurs out of, the waste management sector down to the land restoration sector. And I'll say it spans the gamut. So from technology to building infrastructure, that improves food security, all the way down to marketing. So I'm really excited about the prospects here.
Thank you, Audrey, for that response. Yes, I definitely agree with you. In the ever-changing world of technology right now, there's a lot of opportunities, and it's not just feeding into the information technology sector, but also into other sectors like agriculture, and getting to automate different processes and ensure that we kind of make things easier is very attractive to young people. So I really do agree with that response. Vince, are you able to share some current opportunities for you as a young person in agriculture and agribusiness? Yes,
well, here in my country, and I guess maybe that should be a problem globally as well, we have an aging farmer population. So like here in Dominica, our average age of a farmer is close to 60 years old. So imagine in 10 years, when we are still young, I'll be 41 in 10 years. When these farmers are retiring, that means they're gonna have a higher demand for farmers and produce. So then we can demand higher prices for our produce. Also, I see climate change as an opportunity for us young people, with irregular rainfall, whether it be too much or too little, rising temperature, intense weather systems. This is where we the young people can use innovation to shine, as we are not stuck in our ways like the older farmers. Whether we implement irrigation system, hydroponics farming, protective agriculture, using modern cooling methods, or introduce more heat-resistant varieties. Our traditional farmers here are basically seasonal farmers. So take, for example, tomatoes. When tomatoes are in season here, you get them for like $2.50 per pound. When they're out of season, they go up to as high as $10 a pound, because most of the time they have to be imported. So if a farmer applies innovation and can provide the right environment for his crops year-round, off-season, he can really make some substantial profits. Yes, so that's the opportunities I see for young people in agriculture.
Thank you so much for that. I appreciate the twist on seeing climate change as an opportunity. I guess it does definitely force us to become more creative, become more adaptive, and yes. I think that the young people are more open to new ideas and testing different theories and new solutions, I would say. So yes, that would basically move us away from being seasonal to being more all year producers. So thank you so much.
In every negative thing, there's positive. Even in COVID, there are companies that done millions and millions of it.
I get that.
Yeah, it's true. It bankrupt some companies, but there are some companies that made a killing during COVID.
Okay.
Yeah, so, yeah.
So with all sectors, I wanted to ask you, Audrey, what do you think are the current challenges you face as a young person in agriculture and agribusiness, and how are you responding to them?
Okay, thanks for that. I just wanted to echo Vince's sentiment as climate change being an opportunity as well. But I validate that, but I also say it's also a current challenge. But obviously, as a growing or budding entrepreneur, it's important that we get to see opportunities in every problem. Because currently on our farmlands, it's very difficult for the people, diligent workers who actually put food on our table, suffering from unpredictable rainfall patterns. In Ghana, for instance, there's high rain dependency. Over 95% depend on rain-fed agriculture, right? And now you are timing when you want to grow food, you're hit with a drought. there's a lot of climate variability. So in essence, you have to now start building an arsenal where you're able to tackle all the things that hit you as a farmer or anyone in agriculture. If not, you can't make your money. I think current challenges as well would be with access to capital. I think it's important that, you know, there's access to, whether it's grants, loans, support should be given to a lot of entrepreneurs or people within the agricultural space, because it's a sector that is, you know, that is quite unpredictable considering the weather, and when you don't have money to actually build the infrastructure, it's hard to do business. I think the other challenge I'm seeing is technological infrastructure. Currently, we're building pyrolysis kilns, small-scale pyrolysis kilns that allow us to convert sugarcane waste and rice husk and cocoa pods into biochar, right? And if I talk about the amount of money I need to actually get a fully functional high-end one, that's over getting to $500,000. But you know, we sit here and I'm like, I have had to design locally and fabricate in partnership with our local engineers a new form of pyrolysis that enables us to still harness the power of it. So if we can have more of these technological innovations at quite a decentralized small scale, it would really support us to experiment and to like scale faster and quicker. And I think the last bit would have to do with when I started, I think as a youth or as a student, it was hard for people to believe that, you know, I was going to make this work for them. And but I think as what I realized was just being true to yourself, being consistent. And then because of that, we're able to surmount the trust barrier. So now you have a lot of farmers trusting that you're able to, you know, exchange knowledge and then support them to grow food and improve their soil health. Yeah.
Wow, thank you so much, Audrey. That was such a really good response. I definitely feel that, yes, there's opportunity in challenges, but climate change is real and impacting a lot of communities, a lot of their livelihoods. And even in Dominica recently, you know, some farmers lost a lot of things that were on the acreage. And it's not like it was predictable, it was also the hurricane season. So it's hard to adjust to that. Capital is definitely something and technological infrastructure is very important. So I'm really happy that you brought that up. It's very important that we are aware of these issues and try our best to be creative and work around them. So Vince, are you able to share some current challenges that you face as a young person in agriculture and agribusiness, and how are you responding to them?
Yes, okay, thanks for the question. All right, so here, I think one of our main challenges is the price of agricultural land has been increasing very rapidly in recent years. So I think a way we can come back that is like to be more innovative, whether it be hydroponics, irrigation, or vertical farming, so we can produce more on less land. So instead of us having to buy, let's say, 5 acres, we can probably try to do the same amount of produce on 2 or 3 acres, right? Then the lack of capital, farming equipment, labor and structures can be costly. I think we can overcome this by, one, taking out loans, writing to the government and donor agencies for funding, starting small, doing what we can with what we have, and going into partnerships. So like, you don't go into it alone. Like maybe you can go with someone, so you can pull your resources together, and then you can do much more. And then also to the lack of skilled labor can be a problem the lack of skilled labor. So as I said, same way I must stress on innovation, so we can be less demanding on labor. So we need fewer workers to produce the same amounts. So that's the challenges and how I think they can be overcome.
Thank you so much. I heard you mention that one of the things I wanted to point out was teamwork is very important. Yes. Pooling your resources as much as you can to ensure that you hit a goal. And there's other people that probably have the same mindset as you. So getting them involved in probably an association or a group really does help. No man is an island, so having the ability to collaborate is important. So thank you for that really lovely response. Audrey, would you be able to let me know if you have been a part of any innovative solution or can think of any innovative solution that can improve agriculture production through climate action and entrepreneurship?
Yes, the first one that comes to mind is obviously what we're doing at Seldom, and that's under soil regeneration. So there's a component of you processing biomass waste of a specific kind, whether from forestry or from farmland, and then using a process called pyrolysis, which just means you're charring it up like charcoal into a chamber, which is done in the absence of oxygen, right? And what that does is it produces a stable form of carbon, which when you put into the ground, carbon is food for the soil, which when you put into the ground helps to retain water, improve bioavailability of nutrients, restores and rejuvenates the soil over time. And that's quite an innovation that is, being pioneered across the continent and also in Ghana. I'm excited to be a part of that. So we're currently doing the manufacturing bit of the biochar product, which is called Sabonterra for us. And then also now locally fabricating the machines in a mobile small scale phase that allows us to set up in biomass waste generating communities instead of them burning it up and allowing the smoke and the fumes and gases to go up. We're able to use that and then create more of these products to restore the land and reduce the dependency on synthetic chemical inputs, right? So we're very excited about that. And that also enables us to be innovative around the carbon credit market now, which I'm so excited because farmers, need to make a lot of money for the work that they're doing. And I think it's an opportunity for us to include them into this market and actually trickle climate finance down to them. So this is what we are a part of, but I could also speak about the weather forecasting solutions that enables farmers in, last mile communities receive, weather forecast and be able to pre-plan, how to grow food, down to drones being able to spray on large hectares of land instead of, having lots of farmers on the land, down to precision agriculture and even to hydroponics, like what Vince is doing. Brilliant work. And I think it's a space that needs to be explored and technology invested in to scale up.
Thank you so much. Honestly, what Sabonsaki is doing is really good. It's a very innovative example already, and that is in motion. And even those other ideas that you just mentioned with using technology, such as precision agriculture, drone spraying, as well as getting involved with the, like when you're doing those type of things, you're basically trying to be more active, more proactive in having climate action and being responsive to the agricultural event, the climate events that can affect agriculture. So I really liked that response. And Vince, is there anything that you're a part of that you'll be able to share that you can basically use to improve agriculture through climate action and entrepreneurship? Vince, I think you're muted.
Oh yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, so as we said, I was in partnership with WUSC. We were able to use my farm as a demonstration for efficient water management, where farmers from around the country came together and efficient ways to irrigate their crops, especially using drip irrigation. We also planted 9 different varieties of tomatoes because at our high temperatures here, fruit set can be a problem with tomatoes because they don't like the heat. So we have to identify three varieties that really had good fruit sets, and we could recommend to the farmers they could plant. yeah, so that was my
Thank you so much. So research, basically putting together research, conducting different demo pilots to test varieties, it's important. Without data, we can't really move forward or make proper decisions. So it really helps to have this information for proper decision making or policy making or creating different avenues and initiatives based on the needs that we see. So thank you so much.
yes.
So I'm going to pose this question back to you, Vince, because I feel like I've been choosing Audrey first every time. So Vince, how do you think, or what do you think university and college students can do to actively contribute to sustainable agricultural practices while exploring entrepreneurial endeavors?
Well, I think university students can take what they learn from school and apply it practically. They could form partnerships among themselves and have their very own sustainable farm. They could also approach, even like, let's say they have low capital, they could go to a traditional farmer and say, yo, you know, you can create much more here, increase your profit by doing this differently, doing that differently. For example, a farmer might have sprinkler system. They might introduce drip irrigation or even hydroponics to the farmer. So I think that's the way they can really on impact the environment, impact the sector, and yeah, take a chance to make money for themselves as well.
Thank you. Yes, indeed, knowledge transfer is very important and collaboration. What about you, Audrey? What do you think university and college students can do to actively contribute to sustainable agricultural practices while exploring entrepreneurial endeavors in?
I'd say that it's important that I echo everything Vince has said, and I'll just add on and say it's important that you stay curious as you leave school or college, and even when you start your business. Just read a lot, do a lot of research, ask questions, and that would mean that you're either talking to your lecturers in your space of interest, right? Either reading articles about it, even down to visiting, farms or processing factories or exploring technology within the space. And then I would say that as well, just experiment, just play with maybe a 3D printer that allows you to spray, mill something, code some, some work that allows you to predict, what forecast something on the yields of a farmland, something of that sort. But I think just stay curious, bottom line.
Yes, being open-minded really helps because I mean, sometimes you never really know what sector you end up in. Even if it's not directly or indirectly, we all contribute to agriculture one way or the other. And that really segues really nicely into the question that I had to ask next, which was, what advice would you give to young individuals or young people in agriculture to make an impact in the intersection of agriculture, climate action, and entrepreneurship? So thank you so much for that. Vince, would you be able to let us know, where do you see yourself in agriculture in the next 10 years? Vince, I think you're muted again. Sorry.
I think I'll just leave it on it.
Okay.
So in 10 years or even sooner, I see myself being a very rich farmer. I want to be an example to inspire the young people to come into farming. And I think money is the is the main inspiration. They're not gonna come into farming if they don't think there's money to be made. So I want to put that. I want to, like, even as I told you with my friend's uncle, when they were the ones building their house cash, buying their vehicles cash, that herself was my inspiration. So I want to be able to show that to the younger folks so that we can get them into farming. Because truth be told, there's a quote that says you may need a doctor now and then, you may need a lawyer now and then, you need a police now and then. But every single day, what you eat comes from a farm. You need a farmer every day. And too often we see that the smarter ones tend to want to go to become doctors and lawyers and think farming now for like those that fail in school, I would say. But we need to take on that mentality here. And I think for us to really encourage the youth to go into agriculture, they have to see the money. Yeah. So I want to be, in the next 10 years, I want to be a prime example for them. Right.
Wow, thank you so much. Yes, I know that money is definitely a factor. It is something that you have to consider in building up ourselves and building up our careers. I'm thankful that you mentioned that. And also to be a role model is very important too. So I wish you all the best though with the adventure you're sure on your way. Audrey, are you able to let us know where do you see yourself in agriculture in the next 10 years?
Definitely crushing the stereotype of what a farmer looks like. I think a farmer could be female. I think a farmer could be young. I think a farmer should be wealthy, you know, helping to crash that stereotype real quick. And I think a farmer could be technologically savvy, right? So that's where I want to start off, so that I could help, you know, transform the mindsets of, you know, my sisters, my brothers, you know, my colleagues about what agriculture should look like. And then I think business-wise for Seldom Sake, I definitely see us expanding into different countries, setting up, you know, our technological machines or innovation around soil regeneration, biochar work, and then enabling farmers to actually tap into that and tap into transforming waste from factories and their farmlands into something that benefits them and increase their yields. So I think that's what I see myself doing.
Oh, thank you so much. Wow. Well, I wish you all the best, actually, especially with Salmon Sake. I know that it will be something that is very impactful, as well as the fact that I know you can't do it on your own, that the breaking barriers thing, but it only starts with one. So I'm really happy that you do aspire to achieve that, to break the notion or the stereotype as to what a farmer looks like. It is important to remember that a farmer can be me, it can be you, it can be any one of us. So thank you so much for that response. And to bring us to a close, my last question would be directed to you, Audrey. Could you share a call to action for our audience of something they can do today to contribute to positive change in climate action, agriculture, and entrepreneurship?
Yes, I'd say I'll just reiterate, stay curious. I think that's the first thing. Be aware of the changing times, you know, and pressing global issues around climate change, around being sustainable, around the circular economy. How do you recycle, reuse, just making sure that there's a purpose for all the waste streams that come out of your homes, your schools, your churches, your farms. And I think if we can start from there and then look into the power of people as well as a way to actually tap into like knowledge, skill sets, and to also scale our solutions, will enable positive transformation. So, yeah.
Thank you. Lovely. And yourself, Vince, would you be able to share a call to action for our audience as something they can do today to contribute to positive change in climate action, agriculture, and entrepreneurship?
Yes, well, my message today not only be to farming, but to whatever you do. I think one must always be willing to change with the times. We must not get stuck in our ways. We need to keep adapting. This world is ever changing, so we need to be ever changing. What worked yesterday wasn't necessary today, and we must be patient and hardworking. And with these qualities, we'll be able to achieve anything we want. Yeah, so that's my message today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Being adaptive is very important as well. So I just want to give a very nice thank you to you, Audrey and Vince, today for being on our panel. Unfortunately, our third panelist was unable to make it, but I'm sure that he would have had some great responses and conversation that we had today as well. This discussion was lovely. I had a really good time finding out a bit more about what you do as well, what you do, Audrey, as well as what you do, Vince. It's so important to hear about the stories and, you know, what goes on in the background in these initiatives. And I really just want to reiterate that I wish you both all the best in your future endeavors. And I know that you will be impactful in this sector. So thank you. No problem. I do want to hand over to Jim. He will now be leading us in our Q&A session, particularly from the audience. So Jim.
Thanks, Shania. I am monitoring the chat, and I see one question coming in from Magdalene. And Magdalene would like to know, considering climate change and global warming, what do you guys do to ensure the methods you adopt are environmentally friendly, not only in the short run, but in the long run too? That is to factor in long-term soil quality, giving it a chance to replenish itself. So I think you've both spoken a little bit to that, but if one of the two of you would like to speak in more detail about how you think about long-term soil quality, that would be great. And for everybody else, please share your questions in the chat and the Q&A. We've got time to take a few.
Okay, I think I can handle that question. That's a good question. Well, with me in hydroponics, water is becoming a scarce commodity on this earth. So in hydroponics, what I have a recirculating system. So I only lose what the plants uptake. In terms of like, if you water in soil, especially with sprinkler system, a lot of the water goes to waste through evaporation and so forth. So I use 90% less water than a traditional farm. Also, to help with climate change, I use less land to produce more. So which means I do less deforestation, I interrupt with less forests, because I produce maybe up to 4 to 10 times more in hydroponics on the same square footage as in this is traditional farming. So I'll be, as I said, that will lead to less deforestation and less interruption of the forests. Yes, so that's how I think I can be sustainable too. Also, I could also take it to a step further and convert to aquaponics, where the fishes could actually provide nutrients to the crop, and that will be a more sustainable approach as well. Yeah, thank you.
Just a quick add-on to that. I'd talk about the fact that being organic, right, or working in nature whilst you farm or enter agriculture is really important. Currently in sub-Saharan Africa, over 65% of our soils are degraded. And that means, there's a depletion of nutrients, there's high acidity in the soils. And people would attribute that to maybe quite debatable, to synthetic or chemical inputs, as well as, seeds that that just don't do well for the soil. So what we do is just make sure that we are using 100% organic materials, recycling the waste streams from the farm itself, making sure that they are inputting organic fertilizers, and they know how to also make it themselves, putting that back into the soil, because that means you're able to now increase microbial populations, make sure you're building the carbon that's necessary to build the microbial networks that would increase yield, and then build resilience if there's a drought, and if there are other challenges that would happen in the farming season. I think it's also important to incorporate region ag practices so that we are aware of, for instance, biomass mulching, ensuring that you can preserve, you can cool the earth basically whilst growing food, so that you have the nutrient dense food that you have, instead of just looking at fast tracking your farming production. So these are a few things that we're doing, and then also incorporating livestock so that they can use their droppings back into the soil. There's so many methods we're currently employing, but the point is to work with nature to make it happen.
That's great. And that is all the questions that we have for now, unless anybody wants to throw one into the chat. Otherwise, I will hand things back to you, Shania.
Okay, so I'll just make at least 1 or 2 minutes pass. But in order for us to basically add a question, if any, but Vince, would you be able to let me know, you mentioned that the hydroponics itself, you're planting a particular square footage, so you're not causing, like, you're not cutting on trees. So I just wanted to know, like, in comparison to what you'd produce, right? Like the amount of pounds that you'd get from a crop. What acreage would you have had? Are you using currently in your greenhouse? And then what, like, square footage would you have had to use on farm?
Okay. Currently in my greenhouse now, I can produce up to 2,000 heads of lettuce per week.
So how many pounds is that
Not per week,
roughly?
sorry, not per week, 2,000 heads of lettuce every 3 weeks.
How many
So,
pounds is that exactly?
well, if I put that on with, let's say maybe like 1,005 pounds, 1,500 pounds. You're right. Because now I am able to, my lettuce are planted vertically. So, and also it's not like a tradition. They take half the time to as soil. So which means I can really produce more on an annual basis than my soil counterparts. So for example, I have 2,000 heads planted now. And if I have checked the square footage, because my greenhouse is divided into two, of my lettuce, I only use, like, let's say 120 by 10. So like 1,200 square feet of my greenhouse is dedicated to my lettuce. So traditional farmer now would have to do lettuce, let's say a foot by a foot, would need about 2,000 square feet for that, about 2,000 square feet of land to produce that same amount. Well, half of that same amount, because you still need double the time to produce for his harvest to come in, right? And then also I plan to do 900 tomato plants. And the variety I'm doing is intermediate where they grow whole year. So then I can significantly produce more than my soil counterparts. Also,
Okay.
I have a more efficient use of fertilizer, because even in some countries now I think they ban the spreading fertilizer in the soil because it reaches to the waterways and so forth. So you must have a circulating. You can only apply fertilizer for a circulating system, if you understand what I mean. Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Yes. So you're basically using way less land, as well as way less water and way less fertilizer. And you're recycling the water as well as the fertilizer as well. And just to see if we get another question, Audrey, I heard you talking about using organic amendments. So I guess manure to do soil fertilization. So tell us a bit more about that in terms of, I guess, do you all compost? What's your common method of composting, and what results do you normally see in comparison to using natural versus synthetic fertilizer?
Okay, so currently we use plant-derived materials, and then secondary would be animal based or derived materials, mainly from sugarcane and its byproducts. Also, you could from rice as well, but mainly sugarcane and its byproducts. And after testing, you can see the standard nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium that you gain from that. We also utilize some animal waste streams as well after testing, just to make sure that the chemical levels are not beyond threshold, and that enables us to actually produce. So it's a mixture of biochar, which is first of all charring up the waste into a stable form of carbon, biological charcoal, and then we have other organic blends that we put together to make our biochar-based organic fertilizer.
Nice. Very nice, very, very nice. And I love the fact that you tested after, because I mean, it is important to note that some crops require more nitrogen compared to others. Some crops require more phosphorus, some crops require more calcium. So yes, that's very, very, very important. And I'm happy to hear that you actually have products on sale. I mean, if you're able to probably send a link, that'd be really nice. But I saw Jim. I'm just gonna hand the mic back over to Jim. I think he has a question that he'd like to ask.
Well, I have another question from the crowd. Magdalene is rocking it with the questions, and this would probably be our last question as we wrap up. And I think it's an excellent last question. They would like to know, how do you folks make your impact more visible? And how can others learn from you and from the examples and what you've done?
I think you're muted, Vince, and I think Vince just asked if you'd be able to repeat the question, Jim.
Sure thing. I can repeat it. The key question is, how do you make your impact as farmers and as entrepreneurs more visible to others? And how can others learn from what you're doing?
Okay.
Okay, so great question. Well, with me now, I have a lot of, well, with my hydroponic setup, honestly, I was the first one hydroponic setup here. So I have a lot of schools coming over and a lot of young people coming over to visit. You know, they don't want to get their hands dirty again. You know, they're looking for innovative way to get into agriculture. So they don't want to get their hands dirty. They, you know, they see it as a less hard work. They have got to till the soil and so forth and so forth. You know, the little technology that they're, you know, it really intrigues them. So especially among the young people, I think, like when they do their field trips, you can really see their interest in that kind of farming. So that's how I encourage other people out there. Yes.
Okay. Just for me, it's, I think, two things: storytelling, where we ensure that we actually taking videos of our manufacturing, our processing, and then it's online, or it's shared on our national TV stations. So you have a lot of farmers reaching out to learn about what we do. And then the second part has been with setting up living labs. These are demonstration plots that we've set within districts. And this allows, we invite farmers over in partnership with the Ministry of Agriculture, and they get to experience from, in a theory fashion, but also in a practical fashion, how to, you know, incorporate organic materials, what are the best practices, and also to learn from each other. Last year, we did a training for over 700 farmers on regenerative agriculture, where we brought them into an auditorium where they learned a lot, theory part, and they exchanged their own indigenous knowledge, shared amongst themselves. And then we had a practical session in the fields in our living labs, where they also got to see firsthand the impact of what they're supposed to be doing, what they're currently doing, and what the world is changing into, so that they could tackle the current crisis. So that's what we're doing, but we're hoping we can digitalize this with the support from partners and any other person that wants to support us.
Great. Thanks to both of you, and thanks to Magdalene for the great questions. I think that's all of the questions from the audience, Shania. So if you had a couple of words to close out, we'll hand things to Sophie.
I just wanted to say thank you again to everyone for attending. I really appreciate you taking the time to come. I also want to say thank you again for allowing me to be the moderator. I really had a great time doing this panel, and I hope that everyone has a very good remainder of their day. So have a good afternoon to everyone. I now hand over to Sophie.
Thank you so much, Shania, Audrey, and Vince, and Jim for facilitating the Q&A section. I think you've been able to share like very insightful, very honest and authentic comments about your reality, the work that you do, and we can definitely see how passionate you are also about the work that you do. So I'm sure this was really appreciated by all of the audience. So before I let you all go, I just want to take some time to share in the chat, and also when we close the webinar, a quick survey for everyone who's attended the session to complete. Obviously, your feedback is really important to us. And I want to say thank you for joining us for this virtual session, for these two virtual sessions today. And we look forward to seeing some of you in person tomorrow at our Ottawa event. So thank you very much, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you for having us.
Goodbye, everyone.